28, 1992. A woman in her mid-20s was home alone caring for her young children when a male suspect armed with a knife entered the home and demanded money from the woman. After she gave the man money, he then forcefully sexually assaulted her and ran from the home. The sexual assault kit was completed during the initial investigation and DNA evidence was discovered. There was no suspect to be identified and the case went cold. Then comes March of 2022 when the DNA evidence was resubmitted and re-examined, yielding a combined DNA index system DNA match of the male contributor. On November 28th of 22, 30 years to the exact date of the incident, the Lenawee County Prosecutor's Office charged 63-year-old Ricky Nelson Bixler with criminal sexual conduct in the first degree, kidnapping, armed robbery, and breaking and entering. Bixler is currently an inmate with the Ohio Department of Corrections and has been in prison since 1994. The CPD says Bixler has a long criminal history with several felony convictions, including kidnapping, robbery, rape, and 2 sexual assault of a child cases in Michigan, Kansas, and Ohio. Bixler's Ohio conviction was from a November 5th, 92 robbery and sexual assault case that occurred in Leipzig, Ohio. The case went unsolved until 2001 when a DNA CODIS hit revealed that Bixler was the suspect. He spent no time pleading guilty, and now he comes before Michigan's Lenawee County Circuit Court Judge Anna Marie Asloan for his sentencing hearing.
It's a crime that dates back decades. For nearly 30 years, the victim of a violent crime was left wondering whether her attacker was still out there.
This month, police finally made a break in the case, and now they say the suspect could be tied to other crimes, and they're asking for the public's health. Here's this week's Case Files. It's a small town with just a few thousand residents. The village of Clinton is tucked along the northern border of Lenawee County, Michigan. Back on November 28, 1992, a young woman was inside of a home on Courier Street. She was 27 and was home with her own children and babysitting multiple others.
As she's watching these children, a man comes in the unlocked back door. He's armed with a hunting knife, and he enters the residence and he immediately starts demanding money from the victim. So he forces her to go upstairs to get money. She provides that to him, and then he sexually assaults her.
Police say the man eventually left and the victim called 911. Investigators interviewed the woman, a rape kit was performed, police even made a sketch of a possible suspect, but the crime went unsolved. As time ticked by, the case went cold. Nearly 30 years later, Clinton Police Chief Tony Cuevas was inside the evidence room and discovered the items that ultimately cracked the case.
A lot of old files, unfortunately, they kind of get lost. You know, this is pre-computer, this is, we're talking pen and paper and typewriter, and in this particular case, we had cuttings from the victim's clothing.
Small pieces of DNA evidence that could be sent to the state crime lab and entered into CODIS, a crime database that launched in 1998. Investigators quickly got a hit. The suspect, Ricky Bixler. Turns out Bixler's been in prison since 1994 for a similar crime in the state of Kansas, and in the past decade was also convicted of another sexual assault and robbery in Leipzig, Ohio.
Do you think that he could be linked to additional assaults or crimes?
Absolutely, I do. I think that when you look at the circumstances surrounding our case, and then you look at the circumstances surrounding the Leipzig, Ohio case, they're almost identical. I mean, they're scary in how he did the exact same method of operation.
At this point, the suspect's link to the village of Clinton is a mystery, and police are hopeful that someone out there has the answer.
We're trying to get some information from anyone who might have known him back in the early 90s, late 80s, kind of get a little bit of background about what he was like, what type of occupations he held, maybe some friends of his, anything that would have brought him up to this area.
With only one other unsolved crime in the village, Chief Cuevas says this case shows the power of DNA and that proper records can help bring justice, even if it's decades after the crime.
They probably had no idea at the time that 30 years later, that it would be solved based on their efforts.
For this week's Case Files, Christina Williams, 13 ABC, Action News. Now, if you have any information about this case, you can contact Clinton Police. The number's right there on your screen. And if you have an unsolved case that needs attention, you can email me, casefiles@13abc.com.
All right, and Mr. Bixler, if you could stand at the podium next to your attorney. This is in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Ricky Nelson Bixler, file numbers file number 23-21315FC. I have James Daly appearing on behalf of Mr. Bixler. I have Amanda Wagner and Chief Prosecutor Jacqueline Weiss appearing on behalf of the people. This is the date and time set for sentencing. Mr. Jones provided to the court yesterday an updated adult history because there was a duplicate conviction in the prior pre-sentence report. It was number 7 of 13 was removed. Mr. Daly, we did provide that to your office.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Bixler, have you had an opportunity to read and review the pre-sentence report? All right, I'm going to need you to stand next to Mr. Daly by the microphone so that we get good audio on this, all right? Because we need a case of a transcript. So you've had an opportunity to read and review the pre-sentence report.
Yes, I have.
And you've had an opportunity to discuss that with Mr. Daly. You seem like you have a question. What's your question?
No, I don't have a question.
Okay. Okay. What you're looking at is, I think it's a note that just says that in the original pre-sentence, there was a duplicate conviction. And so Mr. Jones amended that information to remove that duplicate conviction so it correctly reflects your prior record. Okay. And are you satisfied with Mr. Daly as your attorney and the advice that he has given you?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Daly, do you wish to explain or challenge the accuracy or relevancy of any information in the pre-sentence report?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Weiss?
No, Your Honor.
Does the pre-sentence report disclose any prior convictions in which there exists any known constitutional defect? Mr. Daly?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Weiss?
No, Your Honor.
The probation department has computed the minimum sentencing guidelines using the grid from the appropriate time period and years on count 1, criminal sexual conduct, 1st degree, habitual criminal, 4th felony, to be 180 months to 360 months. Do you agree with that computation guidelines on that one, Mr. Daly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes, Your Honor.
On count 2, kidnapping, habitual criminal, 4th offense felony, they calculated the guidelines to be 120 months to 300 months. Do you agree with that, Mr. Daly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes, Your Honor.
On count 3, robbery armed, habitual criminal, 4th felony, they calculated the guidelines to be 60 to 300 months. Do you agree with that, Mr. Daly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes, Your Honor.
And on count 4, breaking and entering a building with intent, habitual criminal, 4th felony, 60 to 120 months. Do you agree with that computation, Mr. Daly?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes, Your Honor.
The credit also reflects 444 days jail credit. Do you agree with that, Mr. Daly and Ms.
Yes, Your
Weiss?
Honor.
Yes.
All right. Before the court passes sentence, Ms. Weiss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak today?
I do, Your Honor.
How many?
Will you allow the previous victims to address the court?
Mr. Daly?
No objection.
All right. So I would ask that you both have a seat right there. And I would ask that anybody who wishes to speak, you're going to stand at the podium. I'm going to need you to speak loudly, and I need you to look at me and directly at me. Okay? So, Ms. Weiss, you're first person.
Your Honor, I would start with, do you want me to use your full name or initials?
Initials.
CR.
Oh, okay. So I need you to make sure you speak loudly, okay?
On November 28th, 1992, I felt like my life was over. I also feared for the lives of 2 of my children and 5 other little children I was babysitting. A stranger walked through the big door, put a large knife to my throat, and was pushing me towards the back door. I thank God I was able to convince him that I cannot leave all these little kids alone. So he forced me upstairs into a bedroom where he proceeded to rape and rob me just 3 feet away from a newborn baby. When he was done, he told me to turn around, put the knife to my back. It told me if I called the police that he would find me and he would kill me. I honestly thought he was going to stab me right then, and my life was over. Since that awful day, the life I had lived as I knew it was forever changed. I'm always looking over my shoulder in fear. I had a failed marriage due to struggling of not trusting people entirely, and the idea of sex has just become filthy to me ever since I was assaulted. My skin has been crawling ever since as well. I suffer from deep depression and severe PTSD, and have had to take daily medication all these years with numerous therapists as well. I live in fear. Wait, I'm sorry. I've lived in fear my whole life until today, when he is sentenced. I pray that the court finds him or gives him a life sentence, because he gave me a life sentence almost 32 years ago. May God have mercy on his soul. Thank you.
Please.
Your Honor, RS.
Step up to the podium, please. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. I had no idea that I would have the opportunity to speak today, but 31 years ago, this man came to the place that I loved working. It was my church. I was in charge of children's programming for 100 children and absolutely loved it. He took that away from me. I only went a week without knowing that he was in prison. But it's amazing how an act of violence like this not only impacted me, my family, and my children, but also my church family. And because of that, I lost the job that I loved more than anything. I tried to make it work for about 8 months after Bixler attacked me, and it couldn't. And I remember sitting in my living room, holding a bottle of pills, knowing my best friend, who was an RN, was coming to see me. And I knew that she could save me if I took that bottle of pills. I really didn't want to kill myself, but I wanted someone to know how much I was hurting. You will never can imagine what HIV was like 30 years ago. We knew nothing about HIV. The first thing my 15-year-old son said to me was, "Mom, what if he gave you something?" I didn't know. I had no rights to his HIV information. Every time my children took a drink of my pop, I thought, oh my God, I might have just killed them. Because we didn't know back then how HIV was spread. He had 3 prior convictions, and I had no rights to his information. Every victim is different. My husband still, to this day, has not dealt with it. In the 90s, my children were not given counseling. I was, but they weren't. I sent them back to school the very next day. A little boy told my 3rd grader on the playground what rape was. My middle school daughter, everybody said, oh, he's still in town. He delivered pizza to our house last night. And I didn't know that for 30 years. So yes, I am so thankful that he has been in prison since 7 or 8 days after he attacked me. That these other 2 women had to go 10 years and 30 years looking over their shoulder. And I will tell you, if he gets out in 4 years, I don't think I can live in Hays, Kansas any longer. I don't know where I would go or what I would do, but I cannot live in that same city. So I beg of you to please keep him in jail for the rest of his life. Thank you.
Thank you.
SM, Your Honor.
So you can adjust the microphone and make sure you speak loudly, okay? Thank you.
For me today, I've done a victim impact statement 20 years ago when I had my final. So for me today, I just want to say, I guess I always wondered, his term was to be up in 2028 for me. So when I got the call that this had happened, and of course, I feel a little guilt because from what I know, I'm the first one. So not being able to catch him would have saved a lot of people some pain. But I know now that's not something I could control. I mean, I know that now. But I've always asked God, how can somebody so bad be living in a prison system for 32 years? Why isn't he dead yet? And, that was my thought. Like, why isn't this man dead yet? 32 years, and he's still alive and well. But over this course, I've learned that the reason he's still alive so that Christina could have her justice today. And she could get her day in court. And that's what I've come to realize is why. So I want Christina to get her power back today and get her life and not have to worry, any of us have to worry about him anymore. I'm in a different place in my life. I'm at peace with what happened. That doesn't mean that I want him out in the world where he can hurt more people, or take accountability for what he's done and not blame other people for his actions, which we know he has not taken responsibility because it's the Lipstick Police Department for not catching him a year later, and Ray would have never gotten hurt. That's somebody who hasn't taken accountability. Accountability is when you say, I've done it and I feel bad for what I've done to these women. And that's not what happened in court that day. It was the Lipstick Police Department had me and they didn't catch me. And so that's why I feel that you need to give him what he so deserves. For Christina, who's waited 32 years for this, and me and Ray and our families can just move on with ever having to worry about him ever again. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Or that's far and as far as other people addressing the court. I would ask to address the court once Mr. Daly and his client have.
All right. Do you want to speak before Mr. Daly or after?
After.
Okay. Mr. Daly, is there anything you'd like to say on behalf of your client?
Yes, Your Honor. There is nothing that Mr. Bixler can't say to undo what he has done in his life. This happened 31 years ago, and the women have received a life sentence over this. When you read the written statements that were provided, they were absolutely horrific. There is no justification for any of that. And Mr. Bixler knows that. I expect that Mr. Bixler is going to also address the court, and not with any justifications for what he did. But I think for Mr. Bixler, it's important that people know how wrong he was, how disturbed he was, and the great havoc that he caused in everybody's life that he was involved with like that. Mr. Bixler knows that he is going to die in prison. And he's had that belief that he's going to die in prison for a long time. And he's been there over 30 years. The fact that he's done well in prison hasn't caused any problems there. These things, we all know, mean nothing. But I do believe that the remorse that Mr. Bixler is going to express is real remorse, because he gets no benefit out of anything he says or does here today. There is nothing that Mr. Bixler or I can do to change the fact that his life is going to end. And Mr. Bixler has already spent over 31 years in that type of life, and he's going to stay in that life until he dies. But he does have an opportunity to address this court and the victims in this case and try to bring some closure to what's going on here. Beyond that, I have nothing else to add.
Mr. Daly, thank you. So Mr. Bixler, if you can step up to the microphone if you have something to say. And make sure you speak loudly so that we can hear you.
I apologize for being nervous. I've got quite a lot to say, and I apologize for the length of this. To Christine, Sandy, and Rayanne, and also to the many others who have been greatly affected by my actions. I've now been incarcerated for well over 30 years. In that length of time, it stands to reason that a man will go through many vitally important changes. Physically, chronologically, socially, emotionally, and intellectually, he will change. Most profoundly of all, if there is a remorse in his heart, he will change spiritually as well. I became aware of what I did, and I faced it every day that I looked into the mirror. Additionally, over the course of these years, a man will also experience the loss of many things he has held close to his heart. With the passing of every friend, every family member, or every loved one, he will begin to see his world chipped away little by little. As he goes through this painful process, he will either begin to understand the price he has paid for his deeds, or he will become calloused and hardened by them. Oftentimes, there will never be an evolution, emergence, or an acceptance of responsibility for his actions. This process has indeed given me cause to realize the wrongs I've done. Over the years, I have laid my head upon my pillow at night hoping for sleep, and sometimes, instead, on many occasions, the demons from my past would keep me awake, wondering how and why I ended up becoming the man I was back in 1992 and 93. Guilt-ridden and praying for some form of redemption, I began to ask God for the ability to seek forgiveness for my actions. First, I had to learn how to forgive myself before I could seek forgiveness from others, and I'm still in that process. Recently, I was given a letter written by Rayanne Smith. In this letter, she describes the torment she suffered long after I had been captured. Even after I had been sentenced to prison, the harsh realities of what I had put her through continued to affect her life. Reading her letter, I became emotional and filled with shame. The memories of that fateful day came crashing back, swimming through my mind, only now those things were brought into the present tense. It became very painfully obvious to me that my actions and the harm and pain I had caused had not lessened with the passing of time. With this realization, the thing that Rayanne and everyone wants to know is, do I feel any kind of remorse for the things I've done? Am I sorry? Do I regret the ways I have altered not only hers, but the lives of so many of her friends, family, and loved ones as well? My answer to all of those questions is an emphatic yes. And I want her, Christine, and Sandy, and everyone who loves and cares for them and shared these horrible experiences with them to know that I am sorry for what you went through as well. So you may ask, how does a man like me at my age, facing death behind bars, come to accept responsibility for his actions? The answer is both simple and complicated. I've written letters to the Attorney General and the Governor of Ohio. In both letters, I have asked them to work hard to ratify the current statute of limitations laws in their state. Why would I do such a thing? Because Rayanne Smith is right. There are others. Dating back to the mid-70s. In Ohio, because of the time limits or statute of limitations as it currently stands, many or most of the crimes I have committed will go unpunished. Had Michigan not had the foresight to address these time constraints, we would not be here today. So this means that does this mean that I am only regretful or remorseful because I have been caught, tried, and convicted? Certainly not. I'm much sorrier than mere words could ever express. I am shamefully humbled and invigorated at the same time. Invigorated because I am determined that my legacy cannot or will not be defined by the deeds of my past. Instead, going forward, whenever it is possible, I will prove my remorse by revealing information for crimes I am solely responsible for and will admit to these wrongs in open court. I will aid the authorities in closing any and all cases that can be traced back to me. If I were not sincere in this quest, I would not be speaking about these things in open court during a sentencing hearing. I would like to address a comment I made while I was on the stand during my testimony in this case, wherein I made the comment, or I referenced why I had attacked Rayanne Smith. I said that I had done it before, so I might as well do it again. This is something I never had a chance to explain. That thought process came from a place that no longer exists today. Sadly, this is how I once thought. I hated the world and everyone in it, including myself. Additionally, I set my own rules, and anything and everything and everyone was fair game. I gave very little thought or concern to anything regarding any kind of consequences for my actions. Had I been able to testify without restrictions placed upon me by the prosecution's objections, you would have heard my explanations for that comment and many others that I made while I was on the stand. It is now my fervent prayer that anyone who has ever been affected by my crimes will see the efforts I am going through to clear the records concerning my past, which will in turn give others the chance to see justice and closure for the things they too have suffered by my actions. Finally, I want you to know, I want all of you to know, that it is because of your courage and strength I consider you to be the catalyst that has prompted me to do the right thing. I'm not just saying I'm sorry for what I put you through. I'm saying that you can believe in my sincerity and know that my heart is in the right place. I do not deny that my dying in prison is a fitting and just sentence. There are no places in society for people like me. I now will spend my remaining years doing the good things I should have done and been involved in all of my life. In closing, I want you to know that saying I'm sorry is truly resonating from my heart. I'd also like to, even though they're not here, apologize to my family my mother, who is very dear to me. I just can't keep hurting my mom. I can't keep hurting people that love me. And I can't keep letting these people wonder whenever I'm going to get caught or if I'm going to come back and attack them again. I want it to end. I've been tortured by this as long as these people have. I have a right to be here today to hear you say that I'm sorry, and I'm glad that I have that opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Weiss, is there anything you'd like to say on behalf of the people?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm going to briefly address the court and then I'll allow Ms. Wagner. Back in 1992, this horrible, horrible thing Mr. Bixler did to CR. And then in 2022, Chief Tony Cuevas calls me and says he has a CODIS hit. And I look at the case and I'm mortified about the events that took place. And the person they got a CODIS hit on is in prison for 2 other victims. And throughout the course of this pending case, I met with all of them, and they're all very strong and brave and courageous and have been going through it for the last 30 years. And they will forever be heroes to me for what they've been through. I don't believe a word of what Mr. Bixler said when he addressed the court and said he apologized and he's truly sorry. When he addressed the court, he said, I am sorry for what you went through. It's not what they went through, it's what he put them through. He did that. They wouldn't have went through anything had it not been for him. He acknowledged there are others out there. I got chills when he said that. We all know that. He wants to help bring closure to those cases. Again, here's another attempt, Mr. Bixler being selfish, wanting to go back to Ohio and not serve his time here in Michigan. He has no interest in helping close any cases. I wasn't here to listen to the testimony because although I charged this case and worked with the victims, I got sick the morning of trial, and Ms. Wagner and Ms. Arnold stepped in, and I know they did an amazing job, and I want to thank them for that. And I want to thank Chief Cuevas, and I want to thank the victims in this matter, and I don't want to say it by name on the record. I want to thank you all. So if you allow Ms. Wagner to briefly address the court.
Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, I read the sentencing memorandum that defense submitted yesterday, and I listened to Mr. Bixler's comments. I'm going to try not to be emotional this morning. Your Honor, the fact that Mr. Bixler has been a good boy in prison for the last 30 years, the fact that he wasn't caught 32 years ago when he raped CR, the fact that he now, a month and a half, 2 months after trial, claims that he's sorry for his prior actions. None of that lessens the impact that his actions had on these women. And you heard about that during the trial, and we've all heard and felt that this morning. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time this morning talking about Mr. Bixler because I think we've done enough of that. I do want to touch on just a couple things, and one is these 3 women that you've heard from this morning. Like Ms. Weiss said, I think that they are heroes. I don't want to refer to them as Mr. Bixler's victims after today because they survived him. And the support that they've shown each other and showing up here for each other is something like I've never seen before. And the only thing I feel sorry about for Mr. Bixler is that he clearly has never experienced that kind of love and support in his life. The last thing I want to talk about, Your Honor, is that there was something else that the defendant said at trial that really just stuck with me. He talked about the police not doing their job. And the reason why other women were harmed was because the police didn't do their job. And Ms. Weiss touched on that this morning too, and I just really want to bring that home. The police did their job. All the way back from Officer Terrell, who started this case, Sergeant Keith, Chief Randolph, our own investigator that worked so hard on this case. We had a special agent from Kansas come in and testify. Law enforcement did their job. The prosecutors, we did our job too. You know, Ms. Arnold and I got to step in at the last minute and kind of take whatever glory there was to be had in the trial, but Ms. Weiss is the one that put all the work in to get us to that point. She did her job, and we did ours. And this jury did their job too. And I'm just asking you to do your job today, Your Honor, and make sure that these women never have to worry about this man again. And to make sure that no other woman or child ever has to worry about him again. I'm asking you to do your job and protect the innocent women and children from him.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. Mr. Daly, could you and your client step back up to the podium, please? In determining the appropriate sentence in this case, the court has considered the seriousness of your offenses, your history, the principle of proportionality, the statutory penalty, the cost of confinement, the sentencing guidelines, the report and recommendation of the probation department, as well as what has been said upon the record at this hearing. The criteria and reasons for the sentence are the nature and gravity of the offenses, the discipline appropriate to their commission, deterrence against repetition by you and by others, the potential for reformation, vindication of law, and the protection of society. Mr. Bixler, as I read through the victim impact statements yesterday, and I read through your prior history, starting all the way back in 1977, we have a trespass, 78, a breaking and entering. That was in, let me see, that occurred in Henry County Court of Common Pleas, Grand Rapids. We had another burglary. And that would be in Michigan, Wood County Sheriff. We had another burglary. A lot of theft crimes. And then we get to 1992 when this offense occurred. And thank God for technology. Thank God for Chief Cuevas, who had the commitment to keep submitting. We were able to locate you this many years later. But after that, in 1993, you were convicted of gross sexual imposition in Wood County, Ohio, where you sexually assaulted your stepdaughter. In 1993, we had a couple more, same offense. She was 12. 1993, we have another kidnapping, gross sexual imposition in Wood County, where you sexually assaulted a young woman. 1993, Ellis County, Kansas. That was your aggravated kidnapping, rape, aggravated robbery. You were convicted there and sentenced to 23 years and 5 months. That's your third, maybe fourth victim that we're aware of. 1992, Putnam County Common Pleas. Aggravated burglary, aggravated robbery, and rape. You were sentenced 10 to 25 years in prison in Ohio. And now we're back to this offense. I don't know if it was the first time you raped somebody. I don't know if the last one you got convicted of. I don't know. I don't know how many women you've raped, but you're the reason women and girls are not safe in their homes, in their schools, in their cars. You're part of the reason women are not safe anywhere. So I'm glad you seek forgiveness, but that's between you and God, because you're obviously not getting it here today from anybody. It's a sentence of court that on file number 23-21315 SFC, you will serve 30 years to 50 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with credit for 444 days. There's a $130 crime victim rights fee, $68 in state costs, and a $60 DMV fee. You are to remain active on the Michigan Sex Offender Registry for life and no contact with the victim in this case. And as I said, 444 days credit. On count 2, kidnapping, once again, you have a habitual fourth offense notice on this because you were convicted at trial. It's a sentence of the court that you will serve a period of 30 years to 50 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with credit for 444 days, $68 in state costs. On file number, or on the same file, count number 3, robbery armed, habitual criminal fourth felony. Sentence of the court that you'll serve a period of 30 years to 50 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with credit for 444 days. There's $68 in state costs. On count 4, breaking and entering a building with intent, habitual criminal fourth offense. You will serve a period of 10 years to 50 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections with credit for 444 days. You're to pay $68 in state costs. Sir, I hope that you do actually reach out to people about other people you brutalized, because this woman has not had peace of mind in over 30 years. And those other women deserve that. So if you're truly repentant, you need to take care of those things so those women don't live their life the way she has. Now, anything else, Mr. Jones?
I just want to clarify, they'll be served.
Yes, served concurrently because of these convictions occurred beforehand. They will be served concurrently with the other term of incarceration you're serving. So my bailiff's going to hand down to you 3 copies of your notice of right to appellate review. 1 copy is for you to initial and date to acknowledge you received it. That'll go in the file. The other 2 copies are for you. And if you wish to appeal your sentence, you would fill out the information on those forms and mail them to the court within 42 days.
I don't wish to.
That's fine, but you have to have your rights, so. Record should reflect that he has signed the notice of right to appellate review. Thank you all today. Court is in recess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When a child experiences trauma, they can be stripped of their ability to imagine. But imagination is colors. All the colors. Imagination is freedom. And whatever you want it to be. But a child without imagination is not a child at all. Will you help defend our right to imagine?